Hey, Lobbert here again. As always, the deck list is in the video description along with timestamp links if you want to skip to a match. Please like my video, I really appreciate it. It boosts my visibility on YouTube, and subscribe for more Pauper content. Now let's get into the deck tech. I decided to do a league with Corrupt Control after Clockwork Dean got 4th in the Pauper Challenge on February 16th. I did make some changes. I cut some Pristine Talismans and the main deck Relic of Progenitus. I wanted to max out on Defiles, put in more Geth's Verdicts, and I wanted to go back up to 3 Pestilences. I really like Pestilence. Some things I did want to keep about their list is I liked that they did shave Pestilences. I think 4 is too many. I really like 3, but I can definitely see why they chose 2. I kept the Thorn of the Black Rose. It has been an all-star when I've been testing this, and I don't remember if my last video had Defiles in it, but I definitely love Defile over pretty much everything else in that slot. That's why I wanted to max out on them. And then also these Snuff Outs. The Snuff Outs are amazing. Even without so many Pristine Talismans, you definitely still have enough life to get these to do some work for you. My sideboard is also different. I cut a lot of the land destruction. People are saying that it is not good against Tron. I don't have a lot of experience lately with the deck, so I'm going to trust them. I maxed out on Distresses instead of Duresses, and then I upped the number of Relics in the board. I know that Relic isn't as great against Tron, but it is one of our options for maybe winning a game against them. I put one of the Geth's Verdicts in the board because frequently I'm wanting more edicts than are already in the deck. And then I also put in a Gurmag Angler. I know that I see a lot of Stompy in my leagues, and it's really, really good against Stompy. Any fairish aggro deck or anything that's not going to be able to deal with a 5/5 cleanly, I really do like putting it in against. I also have a lot of Sovereign's Bites. There's a lot of matchups where I do want to try to close out the game a little bit more quickly or gain a lot of life. So against Burn, I'm putting in Sovereign's Bites, and even against Tron, I'll put in Sovereign's Bites just to try to get their life total as low as possible, as quickly as possible. But that's it for the deck tech. So let's get into these games. All right, here for match 1 against Karasuno Ace. This hand is keepable. This hand has 3 mana, so that is pretty keepable already. It's got 2 kill spells in Chainer's Edict and Geth's Verdict, so that'll help us get into some of our bigger spells. We don't have that many big spells in our opening hand, which is also good. We do have a Consume Spirit, which we could play for 3 mana to do 1 damage, or Tendrils of Corruption for later. Start off with Swamp. Our opponent plays a Carrion Ranger. We throw a Chainer's Edict at that to keep their creature count down, and it's possible that they don't have a second land, and we can keep them off of 2 mana. They play a Vault Scourge for a single mana, and we were right, they didn't have a second mana. So this is a perfect Consume Spirit target. It's the completely wrong part of the game to have this card in my hand, so I would rather get rid of it to kill something now. My opponent has a second Vault Scourge. This we can kill with anything besides Snuff Out. We decided to go for Read the Bones to try to find our 4th mana. Another Carrion Ranger for my opponent, so I just have to kill that. A 5th land means we can use this Pestilence as a kill spell. Pestilence is also great because it means they can't play a follow-up creature this turn, so I'm going to have a turn off. We let them hit in with their Carrion Ranger. A 19 turn clock is not scary at all, especially when we have a Tendrils in our hand. And they do take the bait and play a Skargan Pitskulk. We untap and get another Pestilence. And before we end our turn, we are going to activate Pestilence to get rid of this Carrion Ranger. We don't want them to have 2 mana. We let the Pitskulk hit us, and we just continue drawing cards. We're just buying time to find more lands here. Rancor on his guy means we get a 2-for-1 with our Pestilence, and we are fine with that. There's a Corrupt, so our hand is shaping up now. He casts a Vault Scourge. We take this opportunity to cast our Tendrils of Corruption. They do cast a Vines to counter that, so no life. But we do untap, and we can just cast our other Tendrils to bring us up to a healthier life total. The life total isn't super important right now. We are at a decently high life total, but I want to keep my cheaper removal spells so I can double spell in a turn if I have to later on. They cast Burning Tree and a Pitskulk, which does open up a 2-for-1 here with Pestilence, so we are going to go for that on our end step. They try to save the Burning Tree Emissary with a Hunger of the Howlpack, so we just go for a Snuff Out to make sure that the board is clear, and then we are going to have another turn off thanks to Pestilence. Up to 7 mana now, so we can use this Chainer's Edict in our yard if we have the opportunity. We are going to cast Defile on their end step so that we can flashback Chainer's Edict to get rid of this pesky Eldrazi token. They save their guy with Vines of Vastwood, so we cast Defile to make sure that that gets removed. Throw out that Chainer's Edict and pass the turn. They have a Burning Tree Emissary, so we are just going to cast Tendrils on that. It is about time to start casting Corrupt on them, though. No creatures, so we are good to go. So here's Corrupt number 1 and Corrupt number 2. For our sideboard, we take out 2 Consume Spirit. They are pretty slow. We're mostly going to be pointing them at creatures for 1 or 2 damage. We need to stay alive until later, and we bring in Gurmag Angler and Geth's Verdict. We're just looking to max out on removal spells, and the Gurmag Angler is a huge wall for Stompy. Our opening hand has a Sign in Blood and a Snuff Out, so our early game is pretty decent. And then we do have a Consume Spirit that we can hopefully cast on turn 3. Hopefully we don't have to, but we probably will end up casting it on turn 3. And then we do have a Thorn of the Black Rose that's way later along with Corrupt, so we are looking to draw some early game stuff with this Sign in Blood. Turn 1 there's another Kyrian Ranger. We luckily draw Defile, so we're going to Defile that immediately. They play a Silhana Ledgewalker, so now we need to look for an Edict ASAP. Sign in Blood does get us there, and we pass the turn. On their turn they play a Burning Tree Emissary and a River Boa, and we do have answers for all of these creatures now. So we're going to play Consume Spirit for 1 on the River Boa since we have the opportunity, and we will cast Snuff Out on our turn so that they can't protect it and then hit us for extra next turn. They only play 1 creature, so we are able to double Edict, and we pass the turn back to them, and they have 3 cards in hand now. They don't have a play, so we cast Thorn of the Black Rose, get Monarch, and just start drowning them in card advantage. We draw Pestilence, so we are able to play that with just Thorn, and even with a fight spell they can't beat us, so they just concede, and we take our first victory. Game 2 is against the_Brute. Our first hand only has 1 land in it, so we're going to mulligan this. Our second hand doesn't have any lands in it, so we have to mulligan that. Then our 5 card hand has 1 land in it. It does have a Defile to buy us a little time, and if we do hit a second land, we are able to cast the Sign in Blood, and we're pretty much off to the races at that point. So I'm going to make a pretty risky play, and I'm going to keep this. We're on the play, so this is probably wrong, but we're pretty screwed either way. We're going to get rid of a Pestilence and a Consume Spirit. We need the other Consume Spirit and the Tendrils to stabilize us, and of course Defile and Sign in Blood are great early game cards, so we're not going to get rid of those. Play our land and pass. They start with a Nettle Sentinel. That's pretty bad news for us, and we draw an Everything Cards Justice. More bad news. So we're going to pass without playing our land. They play Rancor on their guy, hit us for 4, and they do play a Vault Scourge, which we can Defile. We draw a Snuff Out, so we should be able to clear their guy. I pass the turn as an incredibly greedy play that is definitely wrong. They cast a Nest Invader, and I respond with a Snuff Out. They, of course, have the Vines of Vastwood, and I'm in pretty bad shape now. I'm down to 8, and I finally draw my second land. If I had killed that guy, I may have stood a chance. Probably not, though. We're going to go with the same sideboard we did in match 1. Down 2 Consume Spirit, up a Gurmag Angler, and up a Geth's Verdict. So moving on to game 2. Our initial hand is slow, but we're going to keep it since it has 3 land drops and we can Consume Spirit on turn 3. It's not great, but maybe we'll get there. They play a Vault Scourge, and then we draw a Read the Bones, so we're just going to pass the turn. On their turn, they play a Burning Tree Emissary followed by a Nest Invader. So coast is clear for this Consume Spirit. They hit us for 4 and play 2 more creatures, a Kyrian Ranger and a Skargan Pitskulk. So we're now facing down 7 power. We are still at 16 life, and we have a Pestilence, so we're going to jam this Pestilence. I don't think they can kill me with only a couple of cards in their hand. They get us down to 9, and we are able to play land number 5 and wipe that field on our end step. Their turn, they don't play any creatures because Pestilence is out. We get a turn to start drawing a couple of cards. Our Read the Bones finds a Sign in Blood, so we're going to keep that and cast that immediately. So we're down to 3, but we have interaction in our hand. Burning Tree Emissary and River Boa is what they play. I cast Defile to be mana efficient, and they do have a Vines of Vastwood. I do have a lot of mana now, so I'm going to cast this Tendrils of Corruption. That is a success, so this Chainer's Edict is guaranteed to work since they don't have any way of saving their creature. Back up to a pretty healthy life total. Snuff Out is pretty incredible in my hand, and Chainer's Edict is a perfect draw. Pass the turn, they don't have any creatures, so the turn comes back to us. We draw an Evenkar's Justice. If they're 2 corrupts, we can kill them in the next couple of turns. We still can snuff out anytime. So with them at 15, we pass the turn. They play a Silhana Ledgewalker and a Curian Ranger. So it feels like I'm going to cast Evenkar's Justice this turn. I don't want them to be able to save their creature, so I am going to cast Evenkar's Justice first to try to bait out a pump spell. They do have a Vines of Vastwood, so their creature lives. I followed up with a Chainer's Edict, so we did play around that. We did draw a Thorn of the Black Rose. They don't play any creatures, so on our next turn, we are able to become the Monarch. That pretty much locks up this game. Corrupt for 8, they're down to 5. Hit them for 1, they're down to 4. And another Corrupt, there's no way out of this game for them, and we win. Again, no changes to our sideboard, so we're just going to jump into Game 3. Our opening hand is Geth's Verdict. It only has 2 lands and then a bunch of later game things. Read the Bones can hopefully get us into 4 and 5 mana. They play a Forest and a Vault Scourge. We just play Swamp and pass. They play a Curian Ranger, replay their land, and enchant Vault Scourge. So they're hitting us for 3, and we'll only be able to get one of their creatures. They give up Curian Ranger, and we pass the turn back. Another Rancor on their Vault Scourge means we're taking 5 damage now. We'll make our 3rd land drop, and we do have to cast a Read the Bones to go a little bit lower before we stabilize. We find a Corrupt and a Tendrils of Corruption. I'm going to keep the Tendrils of Corruption to hopefully stabilize us, and the Corrupt is still early, so we're going to put that on bottom. Take another 5 down to 5. They play a Vault Scourge and pass the turn. We know we're good to go with this Tendrils of Corruption, so we kill their creature. The Rancors go back to their hand, but we are at a healthy 9 life. We passed back to them. Still no 2nd mana, so they're going to hit us for 3, and we go down to 6. We play land number 5, and we cast Tendrils of Corruption, just making sure we're at a pretty healthy life total so that we can start casting Read the Bones and things. River Boa for them, but they are tapped out, so we can cast this Pestilence and activate on the end step, killing their creature and keeping the Pestilence around until their turn. They don't play any creatures to make sure our Pestilence goes away. Gives us a turn off so we can play Thorn of the Black Rose. Monarch starts chugging away. On their turn, they play Skargan Pitskulk as a 1/1. On their end step, to be mana efficient, we cast a Defile, and they respond with a Vines of Vastwood. We cast Read the Bones, and we do find a Consume Spirit, so we're going to keep that and cast that for 1 to kill their Skargan Pitskulk and get in with our Thorn of the Black Rose. Sign in Blood off of Monarch feels very good. 1 more creature for our opponent. Cast Sign in Blood on ourselves. Followed up with a Consume Spirit. They do save their creature, so we snuff it out. With the coast being clear again, we are going to cast this Garmog Angler. Get in for 1 and pass the turn. Another Sign in Blood. They cast a Relic. That's not really doing them any good against me right now. I throw down this Corrupt so that I can cast a Sign in Blood. Get in for 6. Up to 6 cards in hand. Opponent sees writing on the wall and they scoop it up. We go into match 3, 2-0 against Sarlonga. Our opening hand has 1 land in it, so we're going to mulligan that. Our second hand has 2 lands and is very good. It has a lot of our early game cards. It's got a bunch of Edict effects, a Snuff Out, and a Consume Spirit that we can just put on the bottom of our library. Our opponent plays a Lagana Band Trailblazer, so that means we're going against Heroic. I can't imagine a better hand against Heroic. They cast a Cartouche of Solidarity. This is a mistake. I accidentally clicked through this. I could have snuffed out their creature and they wouldn't have gotten their token. They attack in for 2 and I pull the trigger on the Snuff Out. I didn't want to continue playing poorly. I do have to sacrifice this Chainer's Edict now so that I can stay up on the board. They are missing land drops, but they do play a Deathblade Elite, so I kill that. Followed up with a second Deathblade Elite. On my turn, I cast a Sign in Blood and pass the turn, hoping to get a little bit more value with this Geth's Verdict. They play a Seeker of the Way, so I'm just going to pull the trigger on this to make sure I don't take any damage, and I'll kill this Seeker on my turn. I have 4 mana, and I draw the Consume Spirit, so I can Consume Spirit this for 2, go back up to 16. They play another heroic creature, so again, I'm going to cast Consume Spirit, and they cast a Laganaban Trailblazer and start pantsing it up. So I'm going to cast a Pestilence to make sure they don't play any more creatures, and I don't believe that they can kill me in one go here. They cast a Mutagenic Growth for a little bit of extra damage, and then after combat they play Lifelink, bringing their guy up to a 6/10. On our turn it drops back down to a 4/8, but we're going to pass the turn here and hope that they go even deeper on this creature. We get an Ethereal Armor on the creature, and then a Hyena Umbra. So they're going to be attacking us for 11, but that's never going to go through. We cast our Geth's Verdict, and we will be losing our Pestilence, but I believe that that was worth it. Cast the Thorn of the Black Rose, and start passing the turn. We see an Akroan Skyguard again, go up to 6 mana, and just pay 4 for this Snuff Out. Being down to 1 card, they scoop up the match. Against Heroic, I go down an Evenkar's Justice, a Consume Spirit, and I go up a Geth's Verdict and a Distress. Evenkar's Justice can kill things, but it is very slow. It's probably not going to get more than 1 creature, so we would rather have this Geth's Verdict, and then we cut Consume Spirit because we're not worried about counterspells or anything, so we don't need that many win conditions. We go up 1 Distress to remove creatures or protection spells from their hand. Our first hand is keepable. We have a Defile, Chainer's Edict, and a Consume Spirit. That's turn 1, 2, 3 if things go right. A Laganaban Trailblazer means we're not going to be casting anything on turn 1. They play a Deathblade Elite, so that's our target, and we're going to be playing a Chainer's Edict the next turn. So bring it back down to 0 creatures, and again, they are on 1 mana, so we're getting decently lucky this league for sure. There's a Sacred Cat. That's not a big threat, so I'm going to go ahead and cast this Distress. I see an Akroan Skyguard, a Chomino's Blessing, a Merge Unscathed, and 2 Seeker of the Way. I'm going to take this Chomino's Blessing since most of the removal in my hand is targeted, although it's pretty unlikely that they'll ever be able to get there. So they cast a Seeker of the Way that we did know about, and that looks like a Consume Spirit target to me. There's the second Seeker of the Way. That looks pretty much the same as the other one. They play that Skyguard and do cast a Cartouche while I am tapped out, so that's going to be something I have to remove. I cast Tendrils of Corruption to get rid of their big creature, and I do go for the Sacred Cat just to reduce the amount of damage that I'm taking. They do embalm their Sacred Cat, so I'm going to Geth's Verdict in response to make sure I don't take any damage this turn. On my turn, I do have 7 mana, so I can cast my Chainer's Edict and send it back to them. No play on turn 9 for them, so I'm going to take it back and pass it right back to them. They play a Laganaban Trailblazer. I think this is when I realized that I've been making a mistake, that I don't have to deal with the Laganaban Trailblazer until it's a problem. So I do follow up with the Geth's Verdict to make sure that they don't have their creature though. And there's down to 0 cards. I'm at 26, and I have a Corrupt in hand with 8 mana. There's another Trailblazer, but I draw Geth's Verdict right away. They are using a spell to pump it up, so I'm going to Geth's Verdict to 2 for 1 them, and they pass back again. A second Corrupt means I'm going to be able to kill them over the next 2 turns. So I cast the first one, no play from them. I draw another Corrupt, so they're super dead, and we end it 42 life. But we are 3-0 so far. Alright, we're going into game 4 against Clergo_Clerigo. We win the die roll, so we're going to go first. Our first hand only has 1 land, so we're sending that back. Our second hand has a bunch of lands and a bunch of 2 and 3 drops, so that's an auto keep. I'm going to get rid of this swamp. I believe our draw spells should be able to get into more, and I don't want to give up any of our kill spells. It's Bogles. I'm going to learn from the previous match and go for a Sign in Blood to try to get more out of them. It's just a Rancor, so I'm going to cast a Read the Bones this turn, and now they're going for a Slippery Boggle. Again, this opponent is on 1 land. Before watching back through this, I did not realize how many 1 land opponents I had, but I guess it happens. I go up to 4 mana, cast 2 Chainer's Edicts, and they're back down to 0 creatures. An Abundant Growth for them does not find another land, so we're going to go up to 5 and cast a Read the Bones. We keep the land and we get rid of the Snuff Out, and we end up finding a Defile off of the top. They finally find an Ash Barrens and cast Abundant Growth on it, followed by a Glade Cover Scout. So we're of course going to Edict that. They unfortunately do play 2 creatures, so our Edict is not going to be as effective, but we're going to hope that they don't just one-shot us. They have an Ancestral Mask, so they one-shot us. Don't think that we could have really played around that, so we go into game 2. Against Bogles, there's lots of changes. We go down 4 Defiles, down 2 Snuff Out, and down 1 Consume Spirit. We go up 4 Distress, 2 Shrivel, and a Geth's Verdict. The Defiles and Snuff Outs all come out because we don't want targeted removal. We'd rather have these Distresses, Shrivels, and Geth's Verdicts because we can rip apart their hand and still kill their creatures. And I know that we're taking out Consume Spirit pretty often here, but the high numbers do serve a purpose in counterspell matchups. We have 3 lands and a Read the Bones, so we're going to be able to get to some of our stronger cards, but in the meantime we do have a Distress to buy us a little bit of time. Their hand has an Abundant Growth, an Essence Harvest, a Glade Cover Scout, and a Heliod's Pilgrim, so they can play this Heliod's Pilgrim next turn, but we are going to take the Glade Cover Scout since we would leave them with no hexproof creatures in their hand. They do play the Pilgrim, and we're going to take this time to cast Read the Bones. We find a Distress and a Swamp. We like both of these, so we're going to keep them, so we have a land drop for next turn. They find another Glade Cover Scout and put a Ancestral Mask on it. Their guy's only a 3/3, so we're going to play a Pestilence to hope that we can kill both of their guys. They play a Rancor, followed up with a Consume Spirit, and that outright kills me. The only thing that would have saved us is if we cast Distress, we would have lived a turn, but I don't think there's any card in our deck that saves us. So we would have died the turn after that anyway. So we take our first loss and we are 3-1. Next up against Reptilum _. This hand is pretty decent. We have a turn 1 play and a turn 3 play. And we play Bogles a second time. So we're going to try to get this guy. We just play land and pass the turn. They play an Abundant Growth and a Cartouche of Solidarity. They hit us for 2. And we are going to use this Defile to kill their creature while it's mana efficient. Off of Read the Bones, we do find an Evankar's Justice, so this could be how we kill that Boggle. They have an Ancestral Mask, so that is not going to be the case, but we have 2 Edict effects, so we're in a pretty decent position, and we're hoping that they play more enchantments on their Boggle. They play in a bunch of Abundant Growths, so their creature does swing for lethal, but we are of course going to Geth's Verdict that. We Read the Bones and find 2 Swamps. We put them both in our hand. Swamps are pretty good. They cast Silhana Ledgewalker and put an Ethereal Armor on it, so our Evankar's Justice will not kill it. We just cast Chainer's Edict and pass it back to them. On their turn they play a Silhana Ledgewalker and pass it back to us. So now we have 7 mana and we can just cast Evankar's Justice to kill their guy. They just cast an Urban Utopia, play a land, and pass back to us. I'm going to cast this Consume Spirit just to be mana efficient, and I think over the next few turns of the game I can kill him. Again, nothing from them, so on our turn we're going to cast Evankar's Justice to make sure that we can kill him next turn. Turn 10, we play another Swamp and cast Corrupt. We go with the same sideboard that we did last game, except we don't value the Distresses quite as much and we leave a Consume Spirit in. I'm just kind of messing around here. I'm not 100% sure which is right, but let's test this out. Match 5, game 2. Our first hand has a few lands and a Shrivel in it. I don't think that that is going to be fast enough, so I take a mulligan. Our second hand has 3 lands in it, which is great. A Distress, a Geth's Verdict, and a Sign Blood. So all of those are pretty early game cards. I love it. And we're going to throw back this Consume Spirit. Their first turn, Crumbling Vestige, and cast Abundant Growth on it. That's great. Draw another land, so we're just going to play that. And there's the Glade Cover Scout, followed by a Cartouche. So the Edict plan is out for now. So we're going to cast Distress while we're developing our hand. They have an Ancestral Mask, a Silhana Ledgewalker, and an Urban Utopia. We're of course going to take that Ancestral Mask. That's pretty much what we were looking for there. They find a land, and they are able to cast Armadillo Cloak. Thankfully that's not doing as much damage as Ancestral Mask, but we are going to take 4 damage. We're going to cast our Chainer's Edict to get one of their guys off the field, and they do play a Silhana Ledgewalker. So we need to find more edicts, so we cast Sign in Blood down to 9 life. We do find one, so we're going to cast our Chainer's Edict right away. Just an Urban Utopia out of them, and then an Armadillo Cloak. So they hit us for 6, but that is not lethal. We edict them and pass it back. They have a Glade Cover Scout. We can't kill that right now, so we're going to gain as much life as we can. They have an Ancestral Mask, and they kill us for exact Cs. So probably 1 life we could have gained somewhere in the game may have saved us. For the last game, we're only going to bring in 1 Distress. We're still going to bring in the 2 Shrivels and the Geth's Verdict, but we're taking out some of our targeted removal, and I felt like it was fine to value Defiles to kill non-hexproof creatures. For the final match, we have a pretty good hand, 4 lands, a Pestilence, and a Geth's Verdict. Defile's not great, but it makes sure that their cartouches don't punish us. They play a Slippery Boggle and pass back to us. We're just going to pass back to them rather than playing this Sign in Blood to keep up with Geth's Verdict, and we're glad we did since they play a cartouche, we're able to 2-for-1 them there. So now it's time to cast our Sign in Blood. We find another Sign in Blood and a Read the Bones. Cast the second Read the Bones, we're back up to 7 cards, and we also have an Edict and a Thorn. We are able to cast this Thorn of the Black Rose, and next turn we will be able to set up with Pestilence and lock down this game. They see what we've done, so they concede. So we did play against the same matchups quite a few times. With Heroic and 2 Bogles, we basically played that deck 3 times, and then we played 2 Stompy opponents. So not the most diversity here. Please like and subscribe, ring that bell, and it will notify you when I do post a video. So that's all I've got. See you guys in my next video.